a Zambian statesman, former vice president and president of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, also known as MMD. His journey from the pulpit to politics has been marked by a lifelong commitment to moral leadership, truth, and national renewal. A pastor, a diplomat, and a politician, our guest today has been a key voice in Zambia's political evolution, challenging both the church and state to uphold integrity. His latest book, In Pursuit of Freedom, captures decades of lessons on faith, leadership, and Africa's ongoing struggle for true liberation. This morning on Voice of the People, we are joined by a leader whose name has become synonymous with both faith and fortitude, and that is Dr.Nevers Mumba, who's a former vice president, MMD president, and now author. He's sitting down with us today to unpack the current political climate sweeping across Africa, from Malawi's election wave to Zambia's own 2026 horizon, from the memory of Manawasa's leadership to the moral challenges confronting our society. We get to ask, what does true freedom look like for Africa today, and can morality and politics ever truly coexist? Thank you once again for joining us this morning.
Well, Shikada, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely welcome.
All right. Now, Dr. Nevers, we are going to go into the conversation. Reflecting on President Manawasa's memorial, what leadership qualities from the era are missing in today's politics that you would point out?
Well, I think leadership evolves, and there are no two presidents the same. And also, by implication, there are no two administrations the same. And it was never meant to be that way. When you look at Levi Mwanawasa's administration, he came in at a time when the economic engine of the country was overheated. And we were in deep debt as a country. There was strain on all the social sector institutions because we could not fund education properly. We could not fund health properly because we were strained by debt. So the focus of President Levi Mwanawasa was basically to ensure that we get ourselves out of debt. And we spent a lot of our time trying to find a resolution to cooling down the economic engine. And so we noticed that under his leadership, he was a very, very calm hand. He was not an excitable person. He was not populist. He was just there to do the job. And you notice that after that, he was able to take the country out of debt. And we were forgiven out of debt. And from that moment, Zambia started to really develop in terms of growth economically. And so that is why we always talk about him, because he created the environment we're enjoying today. So looking at other administrations, I think that each one of them tackles a different situation. But I can only talk about Levi Mwanawasa because I served under him.
Yes. Would you agree with the statement saying that he completely eradicated corruption in his regime?
No, you can't say that. What I can say is that President Levi Mwanawasa was a real fighter against corruption. He was a general in his efforts to ensure that corruption was dealt with. And the zero tolerance to corruption, which he himself adopted, created an environment in the nation where people were, for the first time, aware that if you play the game of corruption, it's going to end badly. And I think that's what he needed to do, and he achieved that. And I think that to say he had eradicated corruption would be biting off a little bit too much.
Yeah. Would you agree that, would you also agree that with zero tolerance, corruption is what the current government is also fighting for right now?
Yes, definitely. I think that this current administration has also taken upon itself to ensure that we carry on from the legacy of fighting corruption. And if you notice, some of the tension that we're experiencing in the nation, like we did under Levi Mwanawasa, arises from the fact that the fight against corruption is a brutal fight at this point. So what happens is that corruption implicates the powerful, implicates those with money, implicates those that made a lot of money during their time. So, and they have influence in all sectors of society. So once you touch them, you start a fire that could burn many people, and you call it instability, you call it conflict in the nation. It really isn't. Sometimes it's just those people that are implicated in corruption, trying to fight for their survival and trying to flex their muscles, that you're not going to get me with that, I'm not going to go down alone. So I think that This administration is doing its best, and we think that the backlash, confirms the fact that the fight against corruption is on.
And now from the time you served under him, are there any personal lessons or memories that you took from your time with him that you still apply even today in your political philosophy?
Yeah, I think one thing from President Levi Mwanawasa was his honesty, his desire to be honest with the people he worked with, his desire to be honest with the Zambian people. He told them when things were working and when things were not working. Levi would not sugarcoat anything. He would tell the Zambian people, this is tough. And if we're going to get out of it, we have to do it together. I can't do it alone. Governance was never meant to be done alone. It is supposed to be done with a complete population that you mobilize. You see the problem together as a nation, not just leaders looking like they're the only ones with the answer. The leadership we are talking about that I saw in Levi Mwanawasa was that leadership of responsibility and also respecting and acknowledging others, that they also can contribute to resolving the conflicts of the country. So I miss those values sometimes because they are very, very unique, and most of them were very unique to him. So for those of us that are aspiring to be leaders, I think the message to us is the fact that when we take over leadership, we should understand the fact that we have to govern with the people. When Levi Mwanawasa became president, he actually looked across the spectrum and brought different people, including those who were in different political parties. He put them on board because he believed that that variety would bring the variety of wisdom that was needed to build the nation.
And with this year, the passing of ECL, and also the memorial for our late President Levi Mwanawasa, it did bring to the forefront that we have no living former president within Zambia. What impact does that have, that absence? Does it affect us as a nation, possibly?
Well, let me answer that question in two ways. First of all, it's always a blessing to have elders, in this case, former presidents, former vice presidents, former statesmen, that you go to when the country is facing a crisis. These are elders in a society that can be sent to resolve some very difficult conflicts. So the fact that we do not have former presidents in our country definitely is a minus for us. Because once you have served as president, you are exposed to so much. First of all, you do understand the problems of the country because you have governed that country. You also understand the different concerns of the people. So when there's a big national crisis in the country, you would rather fall back on the former presidents. We don't have any now. And it's very, very sad that we don't have a former president. But then the other side also is that I think moving forward, although we don't have former presidents, you don't feel it that much because this country has not yet devolved or found a solution on how to effectively use former presidents. We have not yet found a solution on how to make former presidents useful and part of the solution of the country. One of my goals, God giving us the opportunity to govern, is to solve this problem. That never again should we have former presidents looking like undesirables or targets of conflict. But we should create an environment in which we celebrate those people that have served this country so that they could also feel like they need to contribute continually to the well-being of this country. So my goal really is to bring to an end this problem of this former president, is in trouble every day. The other one is also in trouble every day. I think that there is a solution to that. And I'm determined to work on that, to ensure that we have a situation where former presidents will be proud to have been presidents of our country.
With the dynamics with presidency in Africa, African elections today are more about choosing leaders rather than simply choosing managers, if you can put it like that.
I don't know what you mean, Fortress, but I think there's a major difference between a manager and a leader. A manager finds a company like your business here running, you know, you got everything here, it's beautiful, and you make me a manager. All I do is to manage what is already there.
Yes.
So it's a totally different set of, a different tool set to be a manager. But to be a leader is more than being a manager. To be a leader is to tell you that, yeah, thank you for this place, but I'm going to bring it down in order to create something that is more useful and something that is more conducive. A leader leads into areas where people have not gone before and goes ahead of them and tells them we can do it better. We can recreate this and make it better. So I don't look at myself as a manager. I've never looked at myself as a manager. I look at myself as a leader. It doesn't matter which sector, whether it's in church, whether it's in my own family, whether it's in politics. Leadership is leadership in all these spheres. And so managers, they have got their role. They manage what is already put in place. My job basically is to beat new paths, to create new opportunities, and to take a nation where it has not been before and do experiments that are going to make us better. You know, when you look at American democracy, it is called the American experiment. They've never said that they have arrived. It's always trying to explore better ways to become a better community. That's why they're constantly wanting to go to the moon. They want to go to Mars. They're always pushing the boundaries. That's my type of leadership. My type of leadership is to push boundaries, to take this country to a place which she has never been before, and making it a country that can provide certain answers for other nations to learn from.
I'm just going to jump on the same question that I posed to you earlier on. With Malawi's elections outcome being celebrated, they recently headed to the polls as a democratic milestone. Do you see a continental awakening, or are we still recycling the same old systems with new faces? Because that's a concern that has been raised.
Well, I think we need to be extremely careful how we analyze the Malawi election. In many ways. First of all, I think it's very important for us to analyze it because there are lessons there that are invaluable, and for us in Zambia and also for other African nations. Malawi tells us a few things. First of all, the countries of Africa are not owned by Africans. They are not owned by Africa. The countries of Africa are run externally by external forces and external powers, which I pray you younger generation are going to deliver us from that type of leadership. We would like to be in charge of our own destiny. So basically, once you take over a government and you are not in control of the financial system, it's all controlled by the World Bank and you know the international donors that have given us money to do what we're doing, you really don't have a voice. My leadership is to cut off that lameness of the way we govern ourselves until we get it all back to be able to make our own decisions. We think that we need to manage expectations of the citizens. The generation we have today, your generation, is very different from my generation. We grew up under Kenneth Kaunda. We only had ZNBC, Daily Mail, Times of Zambia. And you have to understand what we heard about Zambia, we only heard them through state media. So the political party in government talk expectations of our citizens. When we promise, my view has always been, if I promise that I'm going to bring water to Foxdale, you know, within 6 months, when you elect me, I must now work with the people of Foxdale to constantly inform them how far I've gone. When I find the problem and it becomes clear that I will not deliver within 6 months, which I promised, I must go back and tell the people of Foxdale to say, excuse me, I would like for you to understand I've hit a set of problems. And I would like us together to look at how we can work together to achieve this because I can't meet my deadline. You gotta be honest. You're gonna talk, because that's the way life is. I think that there were promises made in certain countries, in Malawi, Botswana, that needed to be clarified with the people there. So I think, is it a wind that is blowing that will cover Zambia in the next election? I don't know, because at the end of the day, we learn from these things. So if Zambia can learn and get down to understand why did that happen in Malawi and do something to ensure it doesn't happen here, I think we can forestall it. But if we just think that Malawians were just a different country, we may be shocked, like any other country could be shocked. So it's up to the people in government, those of us that are part of this administration in this alliance, to be able to sit down as a team, to say, colleagues, the Bible says, do not think those people who died in that tower were more evil than you are. And you laugh at them, oh, poor Malawians, poor Botswanans, poor South Africans. No. We are all the same. So if what we're doing is what they were doing, we can get the same fate. The only advantage we have today is that our election has not yet come. So we can learn from that and do whatever we can to make sure we don't create the same environment that existed in Malawi when that election came.
Now, still touching on Africa, a number of countries are going to the polls, just like Zambia, either later on this year or even next year. And we have heard, such as within nations like Uganda, Tanzania, how opposition voices are being stifled. And we've even seen it such as within, I believe that should be within Tanzania, or rather Uganda, where Bobby Wine just recently, and even over the past couple of years, we've seen the opposition that he's gotten since he transitioned from music to politics. Would you say that possibly is maybe one of the reasons why young people are uprising within Madagascar and Kenya and all over I would say the African continent? Is it because they are saying they want politics done differently?
Absolutely. I think, like I've said, that this is no longer the Kaunda era. This is an era of, I don't want to say intelligence, because we were very intelligent as well, but we had limited information. I think that there is a demand. There's a demand that the electoral processes on the continent must be fair. You realize that I've had the opportunity of leading observation missions for electoral processes. I led the SADC electoral mission for Zimbabwe in 2023. And one thing that is clear is that the greatest conflict Africa is facing today is not coming from anything else, not even the economic crisis. It's coming from the dissatisfaction of how elections are being held. And those political parties in government that would like to manipulate elections are facing a bigger problem, because young people, they understand when they think that the electoral process is not giving them what they want. That's when you have these uprisings that you are referring to in Kenya that almost derailed that country because they're feeling that the electoral process is not giving them what they want. So our advice and my advice to countries is basically to say, make sure that we invest in free and fair elections. I cannot emphasize this more. Yes, you can cheat people for some time, but these young people are different. They know what they want, and they're going to get it at any cost. You may try to stop them by creating an environment that is impossible, by manipulating the electoral process, but you cannot manipulate their aspirations of the new generation that wants to see responsible leadership. Look, what we need now, all over Africa, is leadership that can deliver. Just to become a leader on the African continent, sitting there and claiming that you're a leader does not work anymore. You gotta make sure that you mingle with the Zambian people, with the Botswanan people, with the Kenyan people, and listen to them. We are made leaders of these people. So we cannot be aloof and detached from them, because we are only leaders because of the people. So if the people don't want something but you want it, leave it. Work with the people until you can bring them to a level where they see your argument. So I think for me, these uprisings you're talking about are coming as a result of compromised electoral commissions. And I would say myself, even to our own electoral commission in Zambia, as we head towards the election, to be extremely transparent, to make sure that there is fairness in the manner the election is done. If there's no fairness, these young people we are leading today do not have the patience that we used to have.
But they have also been, I would say, gotten backlash as well, saying that, yes, we understand you want to speak up, but in the manner in which you do it is detrimental, because you destroy public buildings, you create unrest. And so now the question arises, what other way can they speak up and have their voice heard, especially if they feel that the nation is not in the position that it should be when it comes to governance?
Well, Zambia is a very unique nation. And to the young people, there's a way that we can resolve our issues. First of all, the obvious one is going to the ballot and make a decision. Look, when you elect someone for 5 years, you are the ones who put him in office. Let's not forget that. This behavior or conduct of saying that this is an evil government, if it's evil, you're evil too. You are the ones who put that government in place. So the next verdict, if you think they have failed within 5 years, is to go back to the ballot and make that decision. But to get to be violent or anybody to be agitating for violence and breaking public property, I think the law comes in. And for me, I would never compromise on the rule of law. There is always a channel in every civilized society to be able to express ourselves without destroying this infrastructure that has cost us so much to put in place. So I would say to the young people, yes, we feel you. We know your aspirations. We know your desires. We know what you would like to do. But by breaking infrastructure, how do you improve the quality of life for yourselves? So there are ways in which you can express yourself without being violent.
You also did highlight the fact that as we are going forward, we need to cut off certain things as to make sure that we succeed. And talking about this year, earlier on this year, there was aid cut, 50% aid cut. What's your reaction to that? Do you think it worked out in our favor, or are we still far off from having such kind of things happening to the country?
Are you referring to aid coming from outside?
Yes, the health aid cut, which was earlier this year.
Yeah, well, obviously, we can only look at this from a wider perspective. The United States of America, under the Trump administration, has pulled back a lot of aid and support that they used to give, especially to social sectors like health. And obviously, it has a direct impact on us. But my policy has been, and our party, the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, and now the renewed one, which we're going to announce in the next few weeks, our view basically is that we saw that coming, and it should have come earlier. Because we have been saying this, you cannot be a father in a house and you depend on the next door father, neighbor, to take care of your wife and your children every day and expect him not to interfere in the affairs of your own home. So I think that, yes, it's painful to lose the support we're receiving, but our efforts to fill that gap, that's the muscle that grows us into what we are supposed to do. I'm very happy about it because I feel terrible depending on another country in order to run my own affairs in my own country. I believe in authenticity. It's better we are eating beans and vegetables for a while than eating meat that is just a hoax and it's not really based in reality and it's not based in authenticity. And I think without this aid, Zambia is now looking around to reorganize our budget, to remove money from things that are not really that essential and bring them to the health sector so that we can be a healthy nation. Those decisions we are making in governance are very necessary in order for us to rebuild a new society. Successful society waiting to be given money by outsiders to do it. I do not believe in that. I believe in cutting down on our expenses, on the luxuries that we don't have, until we build ourselves and build our own luxuries. So for me, I think that while we mourn the loss of that support, we are being made into a better country.
Looking at it now, do you think we have the capability to have infrastructure?
That a lot of things that are happening outside the country, like in the United States, discoveries that are being made, some of them are being done by Africans. So in terms of our capacity as a people to do things, we do have the capacity to do that, but we have never applied ourselves because there's been no pressure. What do they say? They say that needs are the engines for innovation. When you have a problem, then you start to think of how do you survive. For me, we are in the best spot right now. I hate being dependent on controlling powers that control you so much that you can't make your own decisions about where you want to take your economy and where you want to take your people. I hate it. I would rather have little, but be free to make my own decisions to govern ourselves.
Actually, speaking of governance and just taking a little bit back to Africa, do you believe that regional bodies like SADC or the AU are doing enough right now to safeguard democracy, or are they essentially just political bystanders? When we come, we observe, we make a report, we go home.
Like I said, I have served under SADC as a leader of the Zimbabwe mission there. These are very well-intended institutions. Remember, SADC comes from what we used to call the frontline states, which was actually started by Zambia. Dr. Kenneth Kaunda was the architect of the Southern African region, states that have come together. But with all the good intentions of SADC and African Union and other regional organizations on the continent, bureaucracy, politics has stolen their worthiness. I'll explain. Let's look at SADC. SADC, we come to a country where we know that there's no democracy, we know that there's oppression of the people, but because we're a family of nations and presidents have become friends and comrades, instead of challenging one another to say, my brother, open up your country for more democracy for your people, they are afraid to challenge each other because they feel that if I challenge him, I'll also be challenged for the things I'm doing in my country. So they create a camaraderie that becomes a danger to the region instead of becoming solutions to the region. So we need an injection of reality into SADC, into COMESA, into AU, into into Western country organization of states and Central. Why? Because at the end of the day, they are becoming a hindrance to democracy instead of becoming facilitators of better democracy in the region. So myself, I think that we need to do more in SADC. We need to do more at the African. We talk more than we do to create a better society for ourselves. But to achieve that, as presidents in SADC, we have to be brutal with one another. We have to sit face to face and tell each other, my brother, the way you are running your country is affecting us because your people are running from your country, coming as refugees to our country. People are running from your country as criminals, coming to our country. Control and manage your nation. And we have to be brutal in order to achieve what we can't be nice and African about it. You know, where you are just tiptoeing around each other, you can't tell each other the truth. We have to drop that. This thing, governance is serious. It's not about my brother, I pat you on the back today, you pat me on the back tomorrow. If SADC doesn't stop that, it will become a useless organization of states. If we are only appeasing each other as heads of states, we must confront the challenges that are facing the region. And there are many. And we can do a better job together than failing to challenge one another.
And actually quite recently, we do have, I would say, a greater call by African countries, especially within organizations, global organizations such as the UN, asking for African countries to be added to the UN Security Council. The question then is, seeing as you were one who was within governance, what has taken us so long that now 2025 is when we are now speaking up even more about being added to something that affects us as a continent this large?
Shekana, no, they are not. The Western world is not asking Africa to be part of the Security Council. They don't want us on the Security Council.
So why are we still part of it?
We are just babies that follow wherever they lead us. These are the issues I'm talking about. If somebody feeds you, they're going to tell you which club you can belong to, how far you can get involved. They feed you. They change governments. If they decide today in that country we are going to remove that president and put that other president, they just come and fund the other guy, create instability in the country, and hold back oil, hold back money for you to buy mini meal, hold back money for you to buy enough fertilizer so that there's a collapse in that country, so that people lose faith in that president whom they don't want. So they control all this. We've got to free ourselves from that. My type of leadership is to make sure that we get total freedom. And that's really what I represent. I've always represented that. I respect everybody else. I respect every other nation, but I respect more my own nation. I respect more the capacity, the intelligence, the integrity, and the sharpness of Zambian people to be able to govern themselves. So, to answer your question, now African nations are pushing for a seat on the Security Council. How long have we been pushing? A long time. Why are they not giving us? They don't respect us.
So why haven't we left?
Well, because we are afraid of leaving, because we need to belong there to continue to participate in national, international, what do you call them, handouts, and also just to belong to an international community. But for me, I think we have to ask ourselves, Zambia, certain questions. So we are members of SADC. How is SADC helping us as a nation? How are Zambians benefiting from SADC? If we can't answer that question in the affirmative, I would pull out. I would ask about the African Union. How are we benefiting from that? Because we are paying fees to belong to these institutions. If we are not benefiting anything and it's not moving us forward, we need to recreate it then. My goal is Zambia. Zambia must become intelligently independent. We may not have everything, but we must be in charge of our destiny. So it is this thing that I wouldn't advise that we pull out of the United Nations, but I would advise that we use our leverage of 54 states to say no to certain things as a group. And once our power is seen, and yet the problem we have is that African nations are easily divided. You know, they pay this country money, so we are no longer speaking the same language. The problem is not with United Nations not wanting us to have a seat in the Security Council. That's not the problem. The problem is the disunity of African states. How vulnerable we are when we see the US dollar. How certain presidents have sold out. They can't stay with their friends on certain issues. The day Africa gets united, that's the day we get a seat on the Security Council. And we must have a veto power. I mean, for heaven's sake, we are 1.4 billion people. That's a lot of people. More than Americans. Americans are 300 million. Chinese are 1.3.5 billion. Indians are 1.4 billion. Africa is 1.4 billion. We deserved a seat around the table. They're not giving it to us because we are not yet united. My view is that any international organization to which we belong and we pay money subscription, we must ensure that we are getting something back for the Zambian people. If it's not coming to us, then we get out and belong to groups that we appreciate are contributing to the welfare of our country.
The phone lines are open. The numbers are 0955-997-997 or 0961-690-487 or 0979-192-485. You can also tune into DSTV audio channel 914 or Go TV audio channel 304, and we are also live on Beats TV channel 922 on Topstar. You can be part of the conversation. Hello, good morning. It's your Power Breakfast. Hello, good morning. Good morning, sir. How are you doing today? You are breaking. Can you kindly move around a little bit? We can't hear you clearly. Hello, we can't get you. Hello? Okay, so you can use any of the studio numbers, 0979-192-485 or 0961-690-487 or 0955-997-997. We do have a text that is via our social media platforms. That is Mr. Chola Hibene. who is asking the question. So before I do that, let me pick up the score. Hello, good morning. I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing? I can clearly get you. Tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Yeah, my name is Maxwell from Germany.
All right, Maxwell, go ahead with the contribution.
Yes, I'm contributing Mr. Evans number 10 this morning.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Evans Mumba, is talking about what is let's start him out at the table right now.
Yes.
And we have to request him to be good. And this year, I'm wishing him to be with in the future.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. We do have another call on the line. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Is it about breakfast? Okay. All right. You can call through. The numbers are 0979 192 485 or 0961 690 487 or 0955 997 997. So there is a question here saying that are you in an alliance with the UPND on principle or pragmatism? And the second question is, what legacy do you want to leave in Zambia after the current president loses in 2026? If it will happen so, can you make a promise that he will lead the MMD party to a leadership that can provide alternative voices as opposed to being a mouthpiece of the ruling party? And the other question is, do you believe that Zambians are better off now than in 2021? Those are the questions that we have voted.
Every political leader, as we head towards the election, and every political party in Zambia is making decisions as to how they are going to approach that election. And that is why you are seeing so much movement in groupings like Tonse Alliance. You are seeing movements in many other alliances that they're trying to put together. The UPND alliance to which we belong is one of those alliances. And the gentleman that has asked the question, he has the right to belong to any alliance.
Sorry to cut you off. So, Dr. Nevers, we do have a call on the line. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Twauka zikomo mwauka bwanje. Yeah. I can't hear him really, to be honest. I can't hear him.
Okay.
So it's a long discussion that I can't respond
Okay.
to.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
What I picked from what he was saying is that why don't we offer the mines to Zambians, and also why don't we promote production in the country where we even import something as little as a toothpick to the country?
That's the cry of every African. But before I get to his question, I was cut, trying to answer the text. No, but maybe allow me to be answering. Maybe they should wait,
No problem.
because otherwise I won't answer anything.
Okay.
That gentleman who talked about what legacy am I going to leave, that I'm a mouthpiece for the UPND, that's a very, very rude and an inability to understand what politics in terms of alliances is all about. Those who are in Tonse, there's PF, there's PEP, PEP, there are other political parties in Tonse Alliance. The fact that they are speaking for the alliance does not mean they are mouthpieces and they have given up on what they believe. We are also an alliance. He may not agree with UPND alliance, but that's his right. Just like some of us don't agree with the Tonse Alliance. But Tonse Alliance must be allowed to express themselves. You can't say they have no legacy because they are on that side. We have worked with UPND since 2016 election, when both of us were in the opposition. Yes. We're not working together because UPND is today in government. We've worked with UPND since 2016 in terms of being in an alliance. So you cannot come to Nevers Mumba and say Nevers Mumba is a mouthpiece of another person, and as though we don't have our own vision. And my vision has been clear in this nation. I'm one of the oldest political leaders in the country, 28 years doing politics, 47 years preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. So you are not talking to a rookie that has come on the scene trying to make himself known. Zambians know what Nevers can deliver. Those who are honest, they know that Nevers Mumba started Victory Ministries from scratch, and it became an international organization that touched the world. And they know what Nevers can do. They know that Nevers was vice president of this country. And what we did in office with President Levi Mwanawasa is not a secret. So people know who Nevers Mumba is. So those who try to use our current configuration of being in an alliance as a way of not having a vision, these are the younger generation who do not know who Nevers Mumba is and how stubbornly committed I am to the well-being of my country. That's for that guy, and I wish he could be more objective in the way he criticizes. But there is also this gentleman that has just been talking now. I agree with you. I won't say much about it. I agree with you. That's my ethos. My ethos is that if there's gold in Zambia, if there's copper in Zambia, if there's cobalt in Zambia, if there are emeralds in Zambia, which there is, then that must belong exclusively to Zambians. And if we cannot mine it because we don't have money, we ask and hire people to come and help us with expertise. We pay them and they go for the service they give to us, but we own the resources of this country. We will never get out of slavery if we don't do what I'm talking about. It will be costly, it will be painful, but it's something that must be done.
So it's now touching on, I'll say, your foray into both from, let's say, the pulpits into now politics. I'm sure it came with a lot of criticism. And would you say that truly from when you transitioned from being a man of the cloth, which you still are, but then now taking a step into politics, we've always known how there should be a separation between the state and church. How have you dealt with that criticism? Before my question, there's a caller.
Hello, good morning. It's the Power Breakfast. Good morning. Can you reduce the volume on your TV or radio set? Yes.
Atindani sina. Okay.
We can't clearly get you. What did you say? Hello?
No, I think he's out.
I think he said something about
Yeah, I think what he has said is the same thing that Mark said. And I think I need to put a word there. Max had talked about the efforts being made by this administration. MMD and myself have been in government before. We do know the challenges of running a country. We do know what is involved in improving the economy. So when you see us working with the UPND, it is because we are totally convinced that the plans of economic recovery that are being put in place are going to work in the interest of the Zambian people. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but that's why the impatience is coming from. But there's no other way of rebuilding a once broken down economic system than the steps that this government and this president are taking at the moment. It may not be interesting, it may not be exciting, but it's a process of recovery. So I agree with them that let's give them an opportunity. 5 years, to be honest with you, is not long enough for you to see the transformation of a society economically completely. It took 11 years for MMD to make sense to the Zambian people. 11 years for them to start to see, oh, I see. So this is what Bachuba wanted to do. This is what Mwanawasa wanted to do. Because to turn the country around does not happen in 5 years. What happens in 5 years is an election. But what it takes to turn a country around is usually more than 5 years. That is why a number of presidents are losing after one term, because no one is explaining to them that it doesn't matter who you bring in. They will need time to turn around certain policies, certain things. And by the time you are doing that, they are telling you to leave. And that is why we have to be constantly communicating with the Zambian people.
Also, going back to my question, saying when you transitioned, or rather you took a step into politics, I'm sure it came with a lot of pushback, because a lot of people felt that you, as a man of the cloth, should not be in politics, knowing that it's known as a dirty game. Does that criticism still persist till today?
First of all, let me help you, Shekinah. Look, I am used to this. When I went into church work, when I decided I felt God calling me into ministry, I was criticized not just by the people out there, but by my own family. I was literally disowned by my family. They were very disappointed that I could choose to preach. They used to say, poor guy, such a handsome boy, now he's just going to be wasted, you know, getting offerings in a plate. He could be an economist, he could be a doctor, and my family was not impressed. But I was convinced that God wanted me to do that. Many, many years later, my family embraced me and said, you did the right thing. I failed many times as a preacher. People said, well, just, you know, stop it. You will never succeed. My crowds were small, and people didn't, there was no television and all that stuff that we used to have afterwards. But once we remained committed to it, we succeeded. And now Victory Ministries became a model of evangelistic ministries and a charismatic ministry in this country. Most of the things happening in charismatic ministries in Zambia, it's modeled after Victory Ministries. So I'm happy that we did that. It's the same thing with politics. Now I go into politics, and they cause, oh, Nevers, you cannot do politics. Just go back to the church. They're telling me to go back to the church where I was rejected, you know. But we stayed strong until we succeeded in the eyes of the people. That I always knew we were succeeding as long as I was preaching the gospel. So I am also convinced in politics, I never give up. I can fall 7 times, I shall fall 7 times, I shall rise again. As long as the Lord gives me health, we shall push for a better Zambia, no matter how long it takes. And anybody who has made a difference has had to show resilience, including the current president. People forget to talk about him. 6 times running for president, and he never made it. And they kept saying, just forget it, go back to Wengwa. It's over. Zambians don't want it, you will never be president. But he kept going. Today he is president. The same people are telling me, Nevers, you can't make it. You know, just go back to church. We listen to the same rhetoric. It's God who appoints leaders. And once your season has come, nobody can stand in your way. What is important? Remain positioned to become useful and relevant to your people.
So now, Dr. Mumba, I would say then my follow-up question would be, how do you reconcile being a man of God in a political system that's often accused of corruption, of compromise? How do the two marry? They
marry very well. You know, being a preacher of the gospel and working in a very hostile, evil environment describes my call as an evangelist. An evangelist does not go to nice places and preaches to nice people. An evangelist goes to criminals, crooks, broken society, where there's darkness, where there's corruption. That's where the gospel works the best. The Bible calls the gospel the light. We are the light of the world. We are the salt of the earth. So the light does not pride itself in light. Light prides itself in darkness, because that's where it's most needed. So for me, when people say, how do you reconcile the two? They have to be reconciled. Some light has to get into darkness. Can you imagine if we just leave politics to the so-called criminals and crooked people, thieves? Then you are the same people that start to complain there's people who don't steal to go there. So what do you want? So I'm sure God looks from heaven wondering, these confused Zambians or Africans, they want righteousness in government, but they don't want righteous people to be there. So do not contradict your own intelligence. Make sure that when you contradict, it makes...
Okay, let's pick up caller. Hello, good morning. It's Rita about breakfast. What's your name again? Okay, go ahead with the contribution, please. Yes.
Like, as I said, what people become progressive, they can do when I become progressive, I do this and this and this and this. Automatically, they get to that, they bring their money to fight.
Okay, all right.
So, I'm very much aware about that. If you are able to explain something for us, I didn't say something. Before this time becoming now and spoken of new government, people know when I become president. So the issue that is there, 3 minutes a day, even 3 times a day again as well. So after I become a president, we are not eating 3 minutes a day. So I think those things, if what I never know, anything as there. If you can get all these things today, I think that will better than the labor. But the other problem is that if you can put it together like that, but when you come to the president, you can't keep mindful. Why? And that will put them in good power. We're talking now about why?
Okay. Thank you very much for your question, sir.
Yeah. Let me deal with him immediately, because I don't want to forget. I think he's laboring a very important issue. That people, before they become presidents, we promise a lot of things. Once we become president, we renege on the promises we made. There are certain reasons, there are certain challenges that I would like the Zambian people to know. It's the same in a home. In a home, we promise our children many things because we believe that they are within our power to do it. But the world is not a straight line. You find challenges that make it difficult for you to fulfill a certain promise you made. My only argument to us as leaders is that the moment you find that the promise you made is unattainable because there's bureaucracy. You know, before you become president, you don't know how difficult it is just to bring water to Foxdale. It has to go through committees. So, you know, people have to sign on it. You have to get international community to clear it, some of the things. So that process makes it difficult for some of the promises you made to be achieved. I therefore have always advised presidents, whether they are my colleagues or not colleagues, and myself, is that once you find the problem in fulfilling a promise that you made, talk to the people. Tell them I'm finding difficulties because of ABCD. Zambians or Africans are very understanding people. But to ignore them and to act like you didn't promise anything, that's when they get angry. And I think that everyone fails at one point or the other because circumstances change. And the only thing you can do is to explain to the people that we have found a set of problems and let's solve them together.
All right. Now, as we'll be heading towards our wrap-up of our conversation in pursuit of freedom, What can we take it is the right time to tell this story? Is it this time, or of course making it in a book, in pursuit of freedom? Maybe you can explain to us a little bit the background of how you came about with it.
The book that I have released, entitled In Pursuit of Freedom, has been in the making for the past 15 years. I've worked on it for the past 15 years. First of all, in its simplicity, it actually deals with the need for morality and integrity to be injected in the tired politics of the continent.
Yes.
I have insisted that if you want moral leadership, if you want justice, if you want fairness and fair play in government, and you want people who can deliver, do not close out people of faith. Because people of faith walk on values like equity. They walk on values of justice. They walk on values of forgiveness. They walk on values of the fear for God. So if you remove them from governance, what are you putting in governance? Some of the problems we are facing as Africa as a result of excluding men and women of faith from the political process. So that's point number one. Point number two of the book is the fact that Africa is not free until we are totally in charge of our own resources, our own decisions, our own policies. And if we are going to be copycats or carbon copies of the West or the East, we will never develop as a people. So this book insists that we are not free until we can make our own laws, until we can make our own foreign policy decisions, until we can make our own economic decisions to decide, for instance, all the gold, or the emeralds, or the copper, or the cobalt in our country must become ours. Totally ours. I'm not talking about sharing them. Totally ours. Once they are totally ours, that's when we can bring in specialty to come and help us. And we pay them for the specialty that they give to us, but it should always add value to who we are. Today, the value of Fortress and the value of Shekinah is determined by outsiders, that you are worth, $7 per day as a Zambian. But where are they pegging that worth? To some international organization. The wealth we have in this country, if we divide it by the 20 million Zambians, we are wealthier than Americans. We are wealthier than the Europeans. But they don't want us to use our own circumstance to define our wealth. I am committed that God giving us an opportunity to lead this country, we will lead the country in determining our own worth and being able to be responsible for whatever God has given to us. If we don't do that, we'll be recycling leadership, we'll be going back and forth doing the same thing. There's a thrill. Do you see what happens when you elect a new president? Malawi just elected an 85-year-old man and it's excited about it. 3-4 months from now, they want to throw them out. It's why? Because it's become now a fanfare to hire, fire. But it's not improving our economies. We need to be committed as a people. Where are our resources? How do we together make ourselves prosperous? How do we become just? How do we become fair? How do we make sure that every Zambian has an equal shot at the opportunities that exist in this country? So basically, I think for me, this book speaks about getting the destiny of ourselves in our own hands and going in the direction that we should go to. And every Zambian must read it.
Quickly, where can they find the book?
The book is in all bookstores in Zambia, but the easier one, although it's more expensive, is to go online and order it on Amazon. Just punch in, Nevers Mumba, In Pursuit of Freedom, in Amazon, and you get that book. It will get to you within 7 days.
I think the conversation, we definitely have got a lot more I wanted to touch on, but unfortunately time is not on our side. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It was a very insightful conversation. And finally, as we get to close out, if Zambia was to choose its next leader, not based on tribe or party, but on values, what 3 values should guide their choice as we get to the close?
I think, first of all, you mean values in the leaders or values?
Values in the leaders, but what should
I think, first of all, I think we need to look at each leader and look at their history, their character. Do not neglect that. This thing of just voting for people because there's a wind blowing, you regret it. What is their history? What is their character? Number 2, it is important that you look at what they have done for this country outside power. And then thirdly, you have to ensure that they love this country. And how do you know they love this country? By some of the measured steps they take, some of the statements they have made, some of the things they have done for the Zambian people outside political power. Those are the things that are going to make you understand that this person really cares for this country. What I want to discourage Zambians from is to just say, we want this guy out, and whatever else is here, we'll put it there. That's being reckless and not being a patriot. If you're a patriot, make sure that the one you put in government is better than the previous one. And make sure that you take your time to analyze each one of us that intends to lead this country at some stage.
All right. Thank you once more for coming through.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Indeed. Well, you can be part of the conversation by going to our social media platforms, which is Power FM Zambia on Facebook. It is Power FM. This has